you are always manifesting, whether you mean to or not. We're going to talk today about key number 11 from the Empowered Communication series, and this one is about manifestation and mental focus. Now, this is definitely tied to key number 10, which is that your thought patterns create your reality, and which you also have heard me use the phrase, what you focus on, you make room for, and that is very, very true. But this really feels like it needs to be its own key because it's something that people don't always understand. Like, for people who follow law of attraction teachers, they can get caught up in like, oh, I want to attract this and oh, I want to attract that, as though they are not attracting all the time. The reality is at any given moment, you are attracting into your life things on the vibration that you are at right then. So if you want to attract something different, you have to shift your vibration, which means this comes back to what polarity are you at, right? Because that's connected to your thought patterns create your reality. Like, how are you choosing to view things? What are you choosing to focus on? If you're focusing on the negative, you're going to draw more of the negative. If you're focusing on what you're grateful for, you're going to draw more of what you're grateful for, right? So manifestation, when coupled with mental focus, is when you really start to see traction. So if I am focusing on all of my worries, if I am focusing on all the things that I don't want to have happen, I should not be surprised when those are the things that I see manifest in my life, because that's what I'm focusing on, right? So this is where it's not mental gymnastics, but it does take take some rigorous vigilance. I'll just put it that way. If you are not used to keeping track of your thoughts, and there's a teacher who talks about, how much damage the phrase, I think, therefore I am, because then we start to think that our brain is us, but the reality is our brain is just another organ, okay? So, this teacher talks about naming your brain. I didn't know I was going to talk to you about this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. They talk about naming your brain because that helps you to remember that every thought that you're having isn't necessarily something that you actually even believe. So I named my brain Betty. As it turns out, he named his brain Becky, but apparently the reel that I was watching transcribed it wrong and said Betty, which is how that happened, and I now think it's hilarious. But anyway, so Betty is my brain, and so periodically, like, I'll be obsessing over something, and I say Betty will be obsessing over something, and I will realize that it's happening, and I'll be like, wait, Betty, that is not helpful right now. It's literally, she is essentially your egoic mind, and you can ask her to stop, and it actually works. Believe it or not. So I have literally said, Betty, I hear what you're saying. And remember, Betty is on your team. She is telling you these fears and concerns that she has because she wants you to have the best life possible, or he, whatever you end up naming your brain. So, Betty is trying to be helpful. She just isn't necessarily being helpful. I'm sure we all have that friend who does the same thing where they're trying to be helpful, but it might not be working how they think it is. And so in the same way, Betty is always trying to be helpful, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's succeeding. And so when I tell her, when I acknowledge her, hey, I hear you, because the more that I try to ignore her, the louder she gets. Because again, like, if you're trying to tell someone, hey, the house is on fire, and they're ignoring you, you're going to start to get insistent and shake them and say, hey, the house is on fire. It's on fire. Did you see it's on fire? You're going to keep amping it up and amping it up. And that's literally what Betty does. So the only way to get Betty to chill out is to say, Betty, I hear you. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. It's actually not helpful in this moment, but I understand what you're talking about. Let's talk about this later. And just get her to calm down. And when you get her to calm down, then you can channel your focus on where you actually want to go. And then you can actually begin to see the fruit of manifestation that you want to in your life, because you're able to decrease how loud your worries and fears and concerns are, and you're able to focus on the goals and the path before you that you feel like you're being led down. And so that way you can be more intentional. And that's when you really get to see things begin to blossom. And that's when it gets really exciting. And again, this comes back to really step one in the intentional living model, which is trusting the flow and following your passion. So this is where you really get to follow that flow and begin to see that manifest in your life. And that's where things get really exciting. Hopefully that encourages someone today. Have an awesome day.